I stared at my phone, watching another client cancel their showing. Third one this week. The Oakland real estate market wasn't exactly crashing, but my piece of it sure as hell was. I tossed my phone onto my desk, where it landed among coffee-stained listing sheets and unpaid bills. Damn it, I muttered, running my fingers through my brunette hair that desperately needed a trim. I hadn't had time for self-care in months, too busy trying to keep my business afloat. My computer pinged with a reminder. Virtual real estate ethics and legal updates, mandatory for license renewal. Perfect. 3 hours of mind-numbing regulatory changes was exactly what I needed to improve this shitty day. I clicked the Zoom link reluctantly. The usual faces populated my screen, Harold with his perpetual bow tie, Monica who always asked questions right before dismissal, and a dozen others I knew from the industry. But there was someone new. Blonde, sharp cheekbones, blue eyes that somehow stood out even through the digital barrier. She sat with perfect posture, occasionally brushing her hair behind her ear with delicate fingers. I couldn't stop looking at her. The instructor droned on about disclosure laws while I studied this woman. Something about her seemed vaguely familiar, like a song I'd heard once but couldn't place. Miss Griffin? Hazel? Your thoughts on the Richardson case? I snapped to attention, scrambling for an answer about a case I hadn't been listening to. I think transparency with clients should always be our priority, I said, hoping generalities would save me. The blonde smiled slightly, almost imperceptibly. She knew I was bullshitting. By the time the class ended, I'd taken exactly 3 notes and spent the rest of the time stealing glances at the mystery woman. As the other participants clicked off, I lingered, pretending to organize papers on my desk. To my surprise, a private chat notification appeared. You saved that answer nicely. I'm Ren, new to this certification course. My heart did a little jump. Thanks. I'm usually more prepared. Rough day. I'm Hazel. Real estate rough everywhere or just Oakland rough? I smiled. How'd you know I'm in Oakland? Your coffee mug. Oakland Raiders. Not exactly subtle. Observant. I liked that. We chatted for a few minutes about the market, the course, nothing personal. Just as I was working up the courage to suggest meeting for coffee sometime, she surprised me. Actually, I'm looking for a rental property. Something short-term but nice. Any leads? This was unexpected. My day had just taken a turn. That's literally my job. I can help. What's your time frame? Immediately. I just moved back to the area and need something ASAP. Just moved back? That tickled something in my memory again. Had we met before? I have several listings I could show you. Would tomorrow work? She agreed to meet at a coffee shop near my office. As we signed off, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months, anticipation. Something about Ren pulled at me, and it wasn't just the potential commission. That night in bed, I scrolled through rental listings with renewed purpose. I typically focused on sales, better commission, but suddenly I was excited about a rental. No, I was excited about the client. I selected properties with ridiculous care, imagining Ren in each space. I needed to get it together. This was business, professional. But as I drifted off to sleep, those blue eyes kept appearing in my mind, familiar in a way I couldn't place, drawing me towards something that felt strangely like coming home. I arrived at Oakley's Coffee 15 minutes early, claimed a corner table, and pretended to review property listings while secretly watching the door. My heart did a pathetic little jump each time it opened. What was wrong with me? I'd met countless clients before. This was just business. Then Ren walked in, and business was the last thing on my mind. She wore a simple blue blouse that made her eyes look like pieces of sky, her blonde hair falling in casual waves around her shoulders. Several heads turned as she passed. Hazel? Her voice was soft but confident. I stood too quickly, nearly knocking over my coffee. Yes. Hi. Thanks for coming. I've pulled some listings I think might interest you. As she settled across from me, I caught a hint of something fresh and citrusy. Focus, Hazel. So, I cleared my throat. What brings you back to Oakland? You mentioned you lived here before? Something flickered across her face. Yes, years ago. I've been away for personal reasons. She shifted in her seat. I need somewhere quiet, private. Preferably a house rather than an apartment. Escaping noisy neighbors? I asked lightly. Something like that. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I showed her photos of 5 properties on my tablet, When she leaned closer to see better, her shoulder brushed mine. The contact sent a current through me that made it difficult to remember basic rental terms. "This one looks promising," she said, pointing to a renovated cottage in Rockridge. "Good choice. It's available immediately. We could see it today?" We spent the afternoon driving between properties. In my car, the space felt intimate, charged with something I couldn't name. She was professional, asking smart questions about each property, but I caught her stealing glances at me when she thought I wasn't looking. At the third property, she trailed her fingertips along a kitchen countertop. "This feels right," she said softly. I was staring at her hands, imagining those fingers tracing other surfaces. When I looked up, she was watching me, a question in her eyes. "Let me show you the bedroom," I said, my voice embarrassingly husky. The master bedroom had afternoon light streaming through tall windows. She stood in the glow, dust motes dancing around her like she was some sort of apparition. "It's beautiful," she said. Yes, I wasn't looking at the room. She turned, caught me staring. Neither of us spoke for a moment. "Hazel," she finally said, "I should probably tell you something." My heart sank. Here it came. She had a partner. She was just being friendly. I was reading everything wrong. "I'm not being completely honest about why I'm back in Oakland." Not what I'd expected. "Okay. I left here 10 years ago. Not by choice exactly. It's complicated, and I'm not ready to talk about all of it. But I want you to know I'm not running from the law or anything." I laughed nervously. "That's good to know." As we stood there, something shifted between us. The professional veneer cracked open, revealing something vulnerable and real. "Would you like to get dinner?" I heard myself asking. "Not as your agent, just as me." Her smile bloomed slowly, genuine this time. "I'd like that very much." Walking her to her car afterward, our hands brushed. She turned to me suddenly, her face close to mine. "Thank you," she whispered. "For the properties, for dinner, for not asking too many questions." Before I could respond, she leaned in and pressed her lips gently against my cheek, lingering just long enough to make my breath catch. As she drove away, I touched the spot where her lips had been, knowing I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. And I didn't care one bit. "I saved the best for last," I said, turning my car onto Maple Street. The autumn leaves were scattered across the lawns in brilliant oranges and reds. It just came on the market yesterday. Ren had been quiet during the drive, more subdued than during our previous outings. We'd seen 12 properties over the past week, none quite right. I was starting to worry she'd give up on me, professionally and whatever else was brewing between us. "It's a 1920s bungalow," I continued, filling the silence. "Completely renovated inside, but they kept all the original charm." As we rounded the corner, I saw her posture change. She sat up straighter, her eyes fixed on something ahead. "That's the one," she whispered, before I'd even pointed it out. "How did you—" "I know this street." I pulled into the driveway of the little blue house with white trim. Ren remained in the car, staring not at the property I was showing her, but at the pale yellow house next door. "Are you okay?" I asked. She nodded mechanically and got out. As I unlocked the lockbox, her eyes kept drifting to the neighboring house. Inside, the bungalow was everything I'd promised. Hardwood floors, built-in bookshelves, a kitchen with modern appliances that somehow didn't detract from the vintage feel. But Ren moved through the rooms like a sleepwalker. In the back bedroom, she finally stopped at the window. It offered a direct view into the backyard of the yellow house. "I grew up there," she said softly. "Next door." The pieces clicked into place. "That's why you seemed familiar. You lived in the neighborhood." She nodded, still looking out the window. "We moved when I was 8. Then I came back for college. And then I left again." I wanted to ask why, what made her leave, why she'd come back now. But something in her expression stopped me. "This is bizarre," she said with a forced laugh. "Of all the houses in Oakland, we don't have to rent this one. There are other options." "No," she said quickly. "This one's perfect. It's like it was waiting for me." I had a bottle of wine in my car, my standard celebration for when a client decided on a property. Retrieving it seemed like the right thing to do. We sat on the empty living room floor, passing the bottle back and forth since there were no glasses. "To your new home," I said. "To coming back," she replied. Our fingers brushed when she passed the bottle. Neither of us pulled away. I shouldn't be doing this, I said. Drinking with clients. It's not professional. Is that all I am? A client? Her blue eyes held mine steadily. The wine, the fading afternoon light, the electricity between us. It all made me reckless. I hope not, I admitted. She moved closer, tucking her legs underneath her. The first day in that Zoom class, I couldn't stop looking at you. I needed a place to live, yes, but I also wanted an excuse to see you again. My heart hammered against my ribs. I thought I was the only one stealing glances. You weren't. Her hand found mine on the hardwood floor. I haven't felt this way about anyone in a long time. It scares me. Me too. She leaned forward hesitantly. I met her halfway. Our lips barely touched, a question more than a kiss. Then she pressed closer, and the question became an answer. When we separated, both slightly breathless, I knew I should establish some boundaries. Wait until after the rental agreement was signed. Maintain some semblance of professionalism. Instead, I heard myself say, "Would you like to have dinner at my place tomorrow night?" Her smile was slow and sweet. I'd like that very much. As we left the house, her hand found mine again, fingers intertwining like they'd done it 1,000 times before. Whatever was happening between us felt both brand new and oddly familiar, like returning to a place I'd never been, but somehow recognized as home. I'd spent an embarrassing amount of time preparing for this dinner, changed outfits 3 times, bought fresh flowers, cleaned my apartment like my mother was visiting, all for Ren. The pasta was almost ready when my doorbell rang. My stomach fluttered as I wiped my hands and went to answer. Ren stood there, rain-dampened and gorgeous, holding a bottle of wine. "It's really coming down out there," she said, shaking water from her blonde hair. "Come in." I took her coat, our fingers touching briefly. "You look beautiful. So do you." Her eyes did that thing, lingering just long enough to make my skin warm. Over dinner, conversation flowed easily. We discussed books, music, Oakland's changing neighborhoods, normal date stuff. But there was an elephant in the room, one I couldn't ignore any longer. "Tren," I said as I refilled our wine glasses. "I realized something today." I hesitated. "And you were Samantha Williams, weren't you? From the yellow house on Maple Street?" Her fork clattered against her plate. "How did you—" "I grew up 3 blocks over. Everyone in the neighborhood talked about it when your family vanished overnight. It was like a local mystery." She stared into her wine glass. "I didn't think anyone would remember. You were 16, I was 14. The rumor was your father was in witness protection or running from gambling debts." A bitter laugh escaped her. "Nothing that exciting. My parents divorced. Dad moved us across the country to spite Mom." She took a long sip of wine. "Years later I came back for college at Berkeley. Changed my name legally to distance myself from my father. And then you disappeared again." Something dark crossed her face. "That's a longer story. You don't have to tell me." "No." She set down her glass firmly. "I want to. If we're going to, whatever this is between us, you should know." She took a deep breath. "I was in a relationship. It got controlling, then abusive. Not physically, but in every other way." My chest tightened. "I'm so sorry." She isolated me from friends, monitored my calls, controlled our finances. When I finally tried to leave, she threatened to ruin my career, my reputation, everything. "She?" I asked, surprised. Ren nodded. "Victoria, my ex-girlfriend." Understanding dawned. "That's why you've been so private." I fled Oakland, changed my number, email, everything. Spent years looking over my shoulder. Her hands trembled slightly. Coming back feels like reclaiming something she took from me. I reached across the table, took her hand. "You're incredibly brave." "I don't feel brave. Most days I still feel afraid." We moved to the couch after dinner. The rain had intensified, drumming against my windows, creating a cocoon around us. "What about you?" she asked. "Any skeletons?" "Nothing so dramatic. Failed engagement, career crisis, the usual midlife stuff, just earlier than expected. And yet you've made a life here. Built something real. Most days it feels like I'm just pretending to have my shit together." "Well, you're very convincing," she said with a smile. The space between us had been gradually shrinking, Now only inches separated us. I could smell her perfume, see a tiny freckle near her collarbone. Hazel. The way she said my name made my heart stutter. I haven't felt safe with anyone in a very long time, but I feel safe with you. I reached up, brushed rain-dampened hair from her face. You are safe with me. When our lips met, it wasn't tentative like at the bungalow. This kiss had intention. Heat. Her hands tangled in my hair as mine found her waist, pulling her closer. The rain pounded harder outside, but I barely noticed. Between kisses, breathless and dizzy, we somehow made it to my bedroom. What followed was both gentle and urgent, discovering each other's bodies with wonder and hunger. Her skin was impossibly soft under my fingers. Her sighs the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. After, as we lay tangled in my sheets, the rain still falling, she traced patterns on my shoulder. I wasn't planning this, she whispered. I kissed her forehead. Neither was I. But I'm not sorry. Good. She nestled closer. Because I'm not either. That's the last box, I announced, setting down a crate labeled Books Classics in Wren's new living room. 3 weeks had passed since our first night together, and today she was officially moving into the bungalow on Maple Street. Thank you. Wren appeared from the kitchen, her hair pulled up in a messy bun, a smudge of dust on her cheek that made her look impossibly endearing. I couldn't have done this without you. Sure you could have, I replied, pulling her into my arms. But it wouldn't have been nearly as fun. She melted against me, her body now familiar territory that I still couldn't get enough of exploring. The past weeks had been a whirlwind, signing rental papers, collecting keys, and spending nearly every night together at my place while she waited for her move-in date. I made coffee, she said between kisses. Real coffee, not that instant crap you drink. My coffee snobbery is rubbing off on you. I'm so proud. We settled on the floor among the boxes, mugs in hand, surveying the chaos. It's strange being back here, Wren said softly. I can see my old bedroom window from the kitchen. I squeezed her hand. Good strange or bad strange? Both. She leaned against my shoulder, like I'm reclaiming something that was taken from me. As afternoon turned to evening, we unpacked and arranged, transforming the empty house into something that felt like Wren, warm, elegant, with unexpected touches of whimsy. I hung pictures while she organized books, our domestic harmony so natural it scared me a little. Pizza's here, I called later, paying the delivery guy at the door. Thank God. I'm starving. Wren dropped onto the new sofa we'd positioned that morning. Moving is exhausting. We ate straight from the box, washing it down with beer, talking about where to put her desk and whether the bedroom needed new curtains. It felt so ordinary, so right, that I almost missed the knock at the door. Are you expecting someone? I asked. Wren shook her head, a flicker of alarm crossing her face. When I opened the door, a middle-aged woman with silver-streaked dark hair stood on the porch. Oh, hello, she said. I'm Margaret Phillips from next door. I saw people moving in and wanted to welcome you to the neighborhood. That's very kind, I replied. I'm Hazel, but I'm just helping out. The tenant is... Samantha? The woman's eyes widened, looking past me to where Wren stood frozen in the living room doorway. Samantha Williams? Is that you? The color drained from Wren's face. Mrs. Phillips? My God, it is you. After all these years. Margaret moved past me, approaching Wren with outstretched arms. You disappeared so suddenly. The whole neighborhood wondered what happened to your family. I watched as Wren accepted the hug stiffly, her eyes meeting mine over Margaret's shoulder, panic, pure and undisguised. It's Wren now, she said quietly. I changed my name. Oh, well, whatever you call yourself, it's wonderful to see you. You must come over for dinner, catch up properly. Is your family with you? Are you married? Each question seemed to make Wren shrink further into herself. No, just me, she managed. After excruciating small talk, Margaret finally left with promises of bringing over a proper welcome basket. The moment the door closed, Wren collapsed onto the sofa, her breathing shallow. Hey. I knelt before her, taking her trembling hands. It's okay. It's not okay. Her voice was barely audible. People know I'm back. What if word gets around? What if Victoria finds out? She won't. You don't know her. Wren pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. I need to be alone. Please. The dismissal stung. Wren? Please, Hazel. I need space. I left reluctantly, texts unanswered for 3 days after. When I finally couldn't stand it anymore, I showed up with takeout and a bottle of wine. "I know you're in there," I called, knocking again. Finally, the door opened. Ren looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. "Can I come in?" She stood aside wordlessly. "You don't have to talk," I said, setting up our dinner on the coffee table. "But you do need to eat." We ate in silence until Ren finally spoke. "I'm sorry," I panicked. "I know. I pushed you away." "You did." She looked at me then, vulnerability raw in her eyes. "And you came back anyway." "I'll always come back." That night, as rain tapped gently against the windows of her new bedroom, we found each other again. Our bodies spoke what words couldn't express. Fear, need, forgiveness, desire. Her hands mapped my skin with desperate intensity, her lips whispering my name like a prayer. When she finally fell asleep in my arms, I watched the shadows dance across her face and knew with terrifying certainty that I was falling in love with her. Ren was making breakfast when I arrived with fresh croissants from her favorite bakery. 2 months had passed since she'd moved in, and we'd settled into a comfortable rhythm. Most nights at her place, weekends exploring Oakland together, stealing kisses in grocery store aisles when no one was looking. "Perfect timing," she said, kissing me as I entered. I watched her move around the kitchen, marveling at how easily we'd created this little domestic bubble. Everything felt right in the world. Until I noticed her phone screen light up on the counter. I wasn't trying to snoop, but the message preview was impossible to miss. "I know where you are now, Samantha. You can't hide forever." My stomach dropped. "Ren?" She turned, saw me looking at her phone, and lunged for it. Her face went pale as she read the message. "How long has this been happening?" I asked. She sank into a chair. "A week. Started with emails, then texts from unknown numbers." "Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to worry you." Her hands trembled. "I changed my number yesterday, but somehow—" "It's her, isn't it?" "Victoria?" Ren nodded miserably. "Has to be. No one else would—" She couldn't finish. I took her phone, reading the previous messages. Each one more threatening than the last. "We need to go to the police." "They can't do anything." "I tried before in Seattle. Unless she physically attacks me." I felt helpless, angry. There must be something. I should never have come back here. Tears filled her eyes. "I put you in danger too." "Don't say that." I knelt beside her chair. "We'll figure this out together." Later that day, a bouquet of black roses arrived. No card, but we both knew who sent them. I threw them in the trash while Ren installed new security cameras I'd purchased. That weekend was the neighborhood block party. I tried to convince Ren to skip it, but she was determined not to let fear control her life anymore. "I'm tired of hiding," she said firmly. The party was on the communal green space at the end of Maple Street. Neighbors mingled around folding tables laden with potluck dishes. Ren gripped my hand tightly as we approached. "It'll be fine," I reassured her, though my own anxiety simmered just below the surface. Margaret Phillips swooped in immediately. "Ren, and Hazel, so glad you could make it." She lowered her voice conspiratorially. "Are you two—" "Yes," Ren said before I could answer, squeezing my hand tighter. "We're together." Margaret beamed. "Wonderful. Let me introduce you around." As we circulated, I noticed Ren gradually relaxing, even laughing at old Mr. Coleman's terrible jokes. This was good for her, I thought, reclaiming her neighborhood, building a support network. Then I saw him, a tall man in sunglasses standing just beyond the party perimeter, watching us intently. When he realized I'd spotted him, he didn't look away. Instead, he raised his phone and took a photo. I turned to tell Ren, but she was deep in conversation with her former high school English teacher. I didn't want to panic her unnecessarily. Instead, I casually made my way toward the man. He was gone by the time I reached the spot where he'd been standing. That night, I couldn't sleep. While Ren rested beside me, I slipped out of bed and opened my laptop. I needed to know what we were dealing with. I had Victoria's last name from Ren's stories, Harrington. A quick search revealed her as a prominent corporate attorney in Seattle. Yale Law, partner at her firm, Photos showed a striking woman with sharp features and cold eyes. But what disturbed me most was finding her in Oakland 3 days ago, checked into the Claremont Hotel, according to a social media post. I dug deeper, using tricks I'd learned researching property histories. Victoria had been tracking Ren systematically, hiring private investigators, monitoring credit reports, watching for name changes. She'd created a detailed digital trail of her obsession. The stranger at the block party must have been working for her, confirming Ren's location. Dawn was breaking when I finally closed my laptop. I had to tell Ren everything, but first I needed a plan. Victoria Harrington was calculating, wealthy, and determined. We needed to be smarter. I watched Ren sleep peacefully beside me, her face finally relaxed after weeks of tension. I wouldn't let anyone hurt her again. No matter what it took, I would keep her safe. I waited until after coffee to tell Ren what I'd discovered. Her face grew paler with each detail, her hands clutching her mug so tightly I feared it might shatter. She's here? In Oakland? Her voice was barely a whisper. At the Claremont? At least as of 3 days ago. I reached for her hands. We need a plan. Ren pulled away, pacing the kitchen. There is no plan. This is what she does. She finds me and I run. That's how it works. Not this time. I stood, blocking her path. This time, you have me. You don't understand what she's capable of. Then help me understand. Ren's eyes met mine, filled with a storm of emotions. Victoria doesn't just want me back. She wants to own me. When I left, I took some money I was entitled to, that we'd built together in our business. She's convinced herself I stole from her. Did you? No. Her vehemence surprised us both. I took what was rightfully mine. She controlled everything. Our accounts, investments, even my name on the lease. When I left, I took enough to start over. She's been using that as justification to hunt me down ever since. I guided her to the couch. Tell me everything, Ren. No more secrets. For the next hour, the full story tumbled out. How Victoria had systematically isolated her, how their shared business venture became a trap, how Victoria had threatened to destroy her professionally if she ever left. My real name isn't even Samantha Williams, she confessed. It's Jennifer Reed. Samantha was my first identity change after college. When I met Victoria, I became Ren Turner. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I don't even know your real name? Ren is who I am now. Her eyes pleaded for understanding. Jennifer died years ago. I had to become someone else to survive. I stood up abruptly. I need some air. Outside on her porch, I tried to process everything. The woman I'd fallen for had layers of identities, secrets upon secrets. How could I trust anything? When I came back inside, Ren was exactly where I'd left her, looking small and afraid. Are you leaving? She asked quietly. The question broke something inside me. Despite my confusion, the thought of walking away from her was unbearable. No, I said firmly. I'm not leaving. But no more secrets, Ren, or Jennifer, or whoever you are. Just Ren. Please. Her voice cracked. I haven't felt connected to Jennifer in years. I sat beside her again. Okay, Ren. But we need a real plan. Running isn't the answer. Over the next few hours, we strategized. Ren still had documentation of Victoria's controlling behavior. Emails, financial records, even recorded phone calls. She'd been gathering evidence, preparing for the day Victoria might find her again. Why didn't you use this before? I asked. I was afraid. She has powerful friends, connections in law enforcement. But that was in Seattle. This is Oakland. My territory. I squeezed her hand. And I know people too. That night, after Ren had finally fallen asleep, I sat at her kitchen table making calls. My cousin in the DA's office. A client who worked in digital security. By morning, I had the beginnings of protection for Ren that Victoria couldn't easily penetrate. The next evening, we were gathering the last of the documentation when a knock came at the door. Ren froze. I'll get it, I said, peering through the peephole. A delivery man stood outside with an envelope. After he left, I opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper with an address, my office, and tomorrow's date. She wants to meet, I said, showing Ren. You can't go. If I don't, she'll just keep coming. Maybe at a time when we're not prepared. Ren grabbed my shoulders. You don't know her like I do. And she doesn't know me at all. I kissed her, fierce and determined. That's our advantage. We argued late into the night, our first real fight. Voices raised, tears shed on both sides. When words failed us, we crashed together in desperate need, our bodies expressing what our voices couldn't. Her kisses were angry, then pleading, then surrendering. We made love with a new intensity, both afraid of losing the other. After, as she lay in my arms, Ren traced my lips with her fingertip. I can't lose you, she whispered. You won't. I pulled her closer. Trust me. I do. She rested her head on my chest. That's what scares me most. My office had never felt so foreign to me. I'd arrived early, arranging our documentation in neat folders on my desk. Outside the window, Oakland went about its normal Thursday business, unaware of the storm about to hit inside Griffin Real Estate. You look calm, said Maya, my assistant, delivering my third coffee. Too calm. Appearances can be deceiving. My stomach was in knots. Remember, when she arrives... I know, Maya nodded. I'll be right outside, recording everything. The intercom buzzed. There's a Miss Harrington here to see you, said the receptionist. Send her in. The woman who entered moved like she owned the building. Tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Dark hair pulled back severely, emphasizing sharp cheekbones and calculating eyes. Ms. Griffin. Her voice was cool, professional. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I didn't have much choice, considering your methods. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. Direct. I appreciate that. She sat without being invited, crossing her legs elegantly. I believe you have something that belongs to me. I leaned back in my chair, projecting a confidence I didn't entirely feel. Ren doesn't belong to anyone. Ren, she repeated the name with distaste. Is that what she's calling herself now? How quaint. What do you want, Miss Harrington? What I've always wanted, justice. She leaned forward slightly. Jennifer, or Ren if you prefer, stole from me. Considerable assets. I simply want what's mine. That's not how she tells it. Victoria's laugh was sharp. I'm sure she's spun quite the tale. The victim. The abused partner. She's always been creative. I've seen the evidence. Evidence? Her eyebrow arched perfectly. Of what, exactly? Two adults in a relationship with normal conflicts? I have evidence too, Miss Griffin. Bank transfers, missing client files. Would you like to see? She pushed a folder across my desk. I didn't touch it. Tell me something, I said instead. Why chase her for years? If this is just about money, why not file charges? Take her to court? Something flashed in Victoria's eyes. Possessiveness, rage, obsession. It disappeared so quickly I might have imagined it. Perhaps I'm not ready to see her destroyed publicly. Despite everything, I did care for her once. How generous. I couldn't keep the sarcasm from my voice. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave Oakland today. You're going to stop tracking Ren. No more messages, no more threats, no more black roses. Victoria's composure slipped momentarily. And why would I do that? I slid my own folder across the desk, because if you don't, this goes to the Seattle Bar Association, and the police, and the clients whose cases you sabotaged when Ren left you. Her face paled slightly as she flipped through the pages. Where did you get these? Ren kept records, smart woman. These prove nothing. Maybe not individually. But together, with testimony from your former assistant, who's now prepared to talk, that's a different story. Victoria closed the folder carefully, her mask firmly back in place. You're making a serious mistake. The door opened then, and my heart nearly stopped. Ren stood there, pale but composed. We'd agreed she would stay away. The mistake was mine, Ren said quietly. Forever being afraid of you. Victoria stood slowly, her eyes locked on Ren. Jennifer. My name is Ren. She moved to stand beside me, and I'm not running anymore. The energy between them crackled with years of history. I placed my hand on Ren's lower back, both supporting and claiming. You have 24 hours to leave Oakland, I said to Victoria. After that, these files go public. You're bluffing. Try me. Ren's voice was stronger now. I've documented everything, Victoria, including your creative accounting for the Bradshaw case. That name clearly hit a nerve. Victoria's confident facade cracked completely. We have an agreement then, I said firmly. You leave us alone, these files stay private. One contact, one threat, and everything goes public. After Victoria left, Ren collapsed into my arms, shaking. I couldn't let you face her alone. I held her tight, relief washing over me. You were magnificent. That evening, as we walked along Lake Merritt, the setting sun turning the water to gold, Ren stopped suddenly. Move in with me, she said. What? Or I'll move in with you, or we'll find a new place together. Her eyes were bright, determined. I don't want to spend another night away from you. Instead of answering, I pulled her close and kissed her until we were both breathless, there in the fading light with Oakland spreading around us like a promise. 6 months passed like a dream. Victoria kept her distance, whether from our threats or because she'd found a new obsession, we couldn't be sure. Either way, the shadows receded from Ren's eyes day by day. Spring arrived in Oakland, painting Maple Street with cherry blossoms and new beginnings. I stood outside the blue bungalow, a sold sign freshly planted in the yard, watching Ren load the last of her belongings into my SUV. Hard to believe we're really doing this, she said, closing the trunk. Having second thoughts? I teased, though part of me still worried she might. She wrapped her arms around my waist, looking up at me with clear blue eyes. Not a single one. After confronting Victoria, we'd spent weeks house hunting, at first casually, then with increasing seriousness. When we found the 1930s craftsman with the wraparound porch and backyard studio space, we both knew immediately. Ready for one last walkthrough? I asked, dangling the keys to the bungalow. Inside, the empty rooms echoed with 6 months of memories, dinners by candlelight, lazy Sunday mornings, arguments about paint colors, reconciliations that left us breathless. Remember when you showed me this place? Ren's voice was soft with nostalgia. I knew that day something important was happening between us. You mean when you kissed me right there, against that wall? Her smile turned mischievous. Want to recreate the moment for old time's sake? The kiss was sweet, unhurried, full of promises kept and still to come. As a real estate agent, I'd closed countless properties, but locking this door felt profoundly different. This wasn't just a transaction, it was the closing of one chapter and the opening of another. Miss Griffin, said the rental office manager when we dropped off the keys, always a pleasure doing business with you. Actually, I replied, taking Ren's hand. It's the last time you'll rent through Griffin Real Estate. I've sold my business. The decision had been surprisingly easy. After years of chasing commissions and working 80-hour weeks, I was ready for change. The new studio space in our craftsman would become home to my true passion, architectural photography. That afternoon, we welcomed friends and neighbors into our new home. Maya from my office, Ren's colleagues from the library where she now worked, Margaret Phillips, who had become an unexpected ally, bearing homemade bread and gardening advice. As twilight fell, guests gathered in our backyard, where string lights twinkled above mismatched tables pushed together to form one long communal dinner space. Everyone, I called, tapping my glass for attention. Ren and I want to thank you all for helping us turn this house into a home. Cheers and applause rippled through the gathering. But there's another reason we've asked you here tonight. I reached for Ren's hand, our fingers intertwining with practiced ease. Ren continued, her voice steady and sure. We're getting married. Next spring. Right here in this garden. More cheers erupted, along with demands to see the rings. Simple matching bands we'd chosen together. Later, after the last guest departed, we stood on our porch watching the neighborhood settle into evening quiet. From somewhere down the street came the sound of children laughing, a dog barking, the ordinary symphony of life continuing. I never thought I'd have this, Ren said softly. A home that feels safe. People who know the real me. You. I brushed a strand of blonde hair from her face. Who is the real you anyway? Jennifer? Samantha? Ren? She smiled, leaning into my touch. All of them. None of them. Just the woman who loves you. That's enough for me. Our kiss was gentle, familiar yet still thrilling, the kind of kiss that acknowledges the past but leans toward the future. When we separated, I kept her close, unwilling to break contact just yet. Welcome home, I whispered against her lips. I've been home since I found you, she answered. We stood there as night fell completely, holding each other on the porch of the house that would witness whatever came next. Arguments and reconciliations, celebrations and quiet moments, all the beautiful ordinary days that make up a life together. After years of searching, running, hiding, we'd both finally found what we needed most. Not just a house, but a place to belong with each other.